Hi, I'm Sean
Hey.
Griffiths. This is Pam Harris. We are so excited to be here with you today. I'm the host of Real Talk by SLG Impact. And like I said, this is my friend, my very dear friend, Pam Harris. Thank you so much for being here, Pam.
Oh my gosh, Sean, I'm so psyched to be here. It's so I mean, I don't know when you're going to play this, but for me to wake up on a Monday morning and be able to talk to you is pretty awesome.
Oh, it's
I
so
want to start
awesome.
every week. Okay.
I know we should, right?
Really good.
Oh, no, it's so great. And I wanted you here today. I've actually been thinking of ever since we started Real Talk, I wanted you to come on here. You have been such an absolute like beacon of evolving brands and people, and you've had such a positive impact on my life. And so I wanted to bring you here to share a bit of you with our audience. And only recently did you share with me your philosophy about lifelong learning. And, I absolutely love it. And, your commitment to curiosity. And there's such this like focus on goals, and I have to be here next. And what am I doing in my 5-year plan? And so it was so refreshing to me when you were talking about lifelong journey. So I would love for you to share, like, where did you get that from, and how do you have that as your North Stars?
It's really funny because a few years ago, I did one of these, like a Myers-Briggs or a Hogan assessment, and it was called Clifton. It was like a Gallup strength
Oh, yeah.
assessment. Yeah,
Uh,
it's just like one of these tools to like learn more about yourself and figure out what you should do with that information, what you do with what you find.
right.
And two of the things that popped up in terms of my strengths, one
Mhm.
was being a learner,
Right.
and the other one was about positivity. And it's sort of like when I read those, it seemed very natural. Like it's like, oh yeah, yeah, yeah. But then when I look back at all the things I've done in my life, it's like, oh, those that really shines a light on like why I've enjoyed what I've been doing.
Right.
So I guess I was raised in. So I'll tell you a little bit about my background. So I was raised in Brazil and Mexico. I came to the States for college in California, and then I moved to the East Coast to work in advertising. And when
Yeah.
I say work in advertising, it was like, yeah, I mean, I graduated from Stanford, but then I had to go to a temp agency to become a secretary because I was a really good typist and I couldn't get a job. It was like it wasn't the 60s, but it felt like Mad Men. It did. So through the temp agency, I got a job as a administrative assistant, and then worked my way up into account management. And so I started to learn about marketing and get a better understanding of what that world was like, and
Mm.
realized that being on the client side was so much better. That was like my absolute dream, was to be a product manager for a consumer packaged goods company. It just seemed great because you own a brand, you run a P&L, and later on when I did, the P&Ls were like $140 million. So you're running that business and you're
Yeah.
responsible for the team around you. So responsible for a team of experts and like orchestrating that, and responsible for the bottom line. So to me that seemed like a really like a dream job. So I went back. At the time, the only route to that kind of job was with an MBA. So
Uh,
I went back to Wharton and got an MBA and did exactly what I wanted to. Worked at Unilever, then worked at Bristol Myers. And then it was like, okay, like I love toothpaste, I love aspirin, I love these things, but nobody else really does, right?
right.
So could I work in something that other people were interested in, something that I just wanted to, you know, that like something I'm so interested in that other people are so interested in? Can't I get a job doing something like that? And I was obsessed with the NBA. It was when David Stern was really talking about like marketing and branding, when those ideas were like very new and no other sports league was doing that. And it was like the Pistons, like the bad boys, and the times of the Lakers and the Celtics, and the Chicago Bulls starting to ascend. And it was just like these storytelling, and these brands being built. And I just kept trying to get a job there, trying to meet as many people, trying to learn as much, so that when I did get an interview, whether it was in licensing or international, like I would know things. And the thing is, like, doing that kind of research is awesome because you're so interested in it, right, Shauna? Like, you've been interested in things where you can't stop reading about it at night, or
Yeah, it's
you
like a
know,
rabbit hole.
it's a rabbit hole, but like a good one.
Yeah.
Is Yeah. So I ended up meeting somebody who was the general manager of their international group, and that was Dave Checketts. So
Ah,
he had worked at Bain Consulting in Boston and had been sort of picked by David Stern I think he'd been working on the leverage buyout of the Celtics at the time, and had been by David Stern, like, we need you in this league. He became like the president of the Utah Jazz when he was 28 years old.
Incredible.
Incredible. He's such an amazing person. It was so great that I got to, and then he became president of the Knicks, remembered me, and I got the chance to interview to head up marketing for the Knicks, and at that time, and bring all that like strategy and discipline and everything that I had learned in brand management into something that was completely that had never happened to.
But
So
that's exactly what you're talking about as you're telling this story. It is exactly what you live, which is the layering of experiences. So you went and you were the head of marketing at the Knicks.
yeah, it's a word that you talked about, like this layering of experiences. Like, I was trying to get a job in international because I'd grown up overseas and I speak a lot of languages. So it's like, okay, what are like the portable competencies that I can bring to these different things? And I think that's why I've been really successful at always sort of talking someone into the fact that like, oh no, I'm perfect for this job.
Right.
Even though I think other people are sometimes challenged to see themselves as appropriate for a job. But it's like, wait, just think about all the experiences that you've had and think about how you are really well prepared for this job, and bringing in other perspectives that could make you be a better candidate for the job than someone who's coming up through like maybe a more traditional path to that position. When you do try to like apply for a job online or something, sometimes they just have bots, or they have people that are skimming resumes so quickly. So
Right.
it's like, well, how can you find somebody else in the organization that you can like verbally or through a network to make your argument, tell your story?
Yeah.
Or how do you, I mean, it takes a lot of time, but how do you change your resume or change that cover letter so the words and the things that they're looking for pop up, so it makes it seem like you're the perfect candidate?
Yeah.
But that's like a lot of work, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I think it's part of it is part of your evolution and how you're like, you've talked about it as like telling your story. So in your story, you went to the Knicks next, and then, you were a part of that experience and you brought so much to that. So what happened after that?
Well, it was really interesting because when I came to the Knicks, it was 1 week before Pat Riley came, and
Uh-huh.
we were averaging like, it was a terrible team. We were averaging like 11,000 people a game. Like, I mean, I joined in the summertime, but the year before, which was worse than my first season when I helped launch the WNBA Liberty at the Garden. We did great. It's like better than my first season at the Knicks. It was pretty incredible. So I got the chance to really build a team at the Knicks, just like amazing group of people. And it was just an amazing time. And I was talking to someone about this because it doesn't happen frequently in your career, where you're in a spot in an environment that's like growing and ideas and risk taking. And I was speaking to a woman who had this at New York Roadrunners when she was there. It was just like this amazing time. And there was an older gentleman at the time. He seemed ancient, and I'm way older than him now. And he used to walk around the Knicks in those early years, and he'd like he'd like take off his reading glasses, and he'd like jangle his change, and he'd be like, "Miss Harris, it'll never be like this again." And I'd just be like, shut up, like, we got to do our work. And but I realized that was like a very special time. We were starting to win games, starting to make money, starting to understand. And the thing that I always took from that is that Dave Checkers was like an incredible role model and incredible leader, because he set this vision in our heads of like literally driving up Broadway with a ticker tape parade. We were so far from winning a championship, so far from it. But the idea that we could, and that's where we were headed. And even me as a marketing person, what was my role? My role was to engage with fans, make the game experience amazing, generate revenue so we could pay players. You know what I mean? So everybody had an important role in it. And so that was really, really exciting. So then he became the CEO of the Garden, and I went on sort of was able to like bring everything we'd done to the Knicks, but across the Garden to all the properties. So that was really fun because I worked on hockey and boxing and Radio City Christmas show, and just across everything, concerts, music. So it was great. Like you're saying, layering of experience, just learning more and more and more. And like you could take that all to there were a lot of similarities about those things, but a lot of differences as well. So I've had the chance to work on a lot of sports teams since then. Like you said, I've done projects with AS Roma, with Real Madrid, theater with Blue Man Group worldwide. And most recently, I was a CEO, the executive director, essentially a CEO, opening a new museum in New York City. It's the first US outpost of a museum called Fotografiska
Okay.
that was founded in Sweden. And it's the world's largest photography museum.
That's
So
incredible.
it was also, very cool because everything that you've learned about people, about engaging people, but also about culture. I worked at Life
Yeah.
magazine, which was all about, photography, of course, and those amazing archives. So it's like all these things that you can bring to a new job. Yes, I've always had the not the luxury, but I've always just tried to seek new things where I'm just going to learn more and, like you said, like layer another experience on. So I'm not really interested in redoing something that I've already done or going back to an industry, but it's like, what else? How do I bring that forward?
Right.
So that's something that I do. I mean, I'm like, I'm just constantly curious. I'm reading everything. I'm watching everything. I listen to a million podcasts. I'm a reader, a book reader, but also just everything. Like, so I'm always trying to see like what I'm learning more. I also, do stupid things that I'm really bad at, like watercolor. I know there's this thing like visible mending where you like create clothes out of other clothes. And it's just like, I'm really bad at it. And but it's also like important that to remind yourself that learning, you're really bad at something for a really long time. And, I have kids and you just see that like when they're learning things, they suck at things, but they know they don't expect to be good at something right away. And
It's
so
like,
when like I don't care if I'm bad at watercolor, like I'm not comparing myself to anybody. And it's like, it's just because I enjoy doing it and I'm teaching myself something. And so you can bring that sort of thought process to other things in your life and not get frustrated and just remember like, it's not that I'm like a bad person because I'm a bad watercolorist. Like I'm just bad at this. Like I'm not bad at it. I'm just not good at it yet, maybe.
Yeah.
But then there's this other thing about goal setting. And I think we talked about this because a woman that is amazing, wonderful. I don't really know her, but I've seen her online and I've heard so many good things about her. And I reached out just to introduce myself on LinkedIn and I'd heard her on a podcast. I just wanted to tell her that I thought she was great. And she wrote back to me, and I'm sure nothing she thought about, but she said to me, so what are you, so nice to meet you. Yeah, that woman's amazing. She's a rock star. And Pam, so what are your goals for 2021? And it just left me in a state of like feeling actually really bad for a couple of days because I don't have any goals for every year, you have that time and it might not always be in January, but it's a time when you start to think about like, okay, what's this year? What are the things and the vision, like not a vision board, but this idea, like I do believe it. Like if you can say it, you can say, what is it, Shauna? What's that expression?
If you can see it, you can achieve it or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. And I do believe that, like, if you're aimlessly, good things might happen if you're aimless, but better things will happen if you're like, I want to get here. Like I do believe in goals, but like right now is very, 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 very hard.
Very difficult.
Hard. The start of the year was just about like getting through it and not getting sick and sort of coping with people are going through so many different things and in different ways. And now, my goal is getting the vaccine and safely and getting my family out of it safely. But it's hard to think about career goals right now. But it's hard not to. Is there a time that you go on Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn and end up feeling like great afterwards? Do you?
Sometimes. I was saying the other day is sometimes, you get so into what you're doing and you kind of forget the things you've done along the way. And then these moments where you talk to people and you're like, oh, right, yes, I did that. And I do know that person. And so I think it's actually interesting that you asked that because it's less of feeling really great, but more of realizing the network that I've built and the things I've done along the way, which actually go right to what you're saying, which is to, help me be the person I am today and be able to add the value that I can add at this point in my career. That's where I feel really good. But it is hard, to not go on those and be like, oh God,
so much farther ahead. But you know what? Exactly what you said is one of the tools that I've read about is the idea of reframing things. And
Ah,
instead of worrying about who's more successful, compare yourself to where you are and what
yeah,
you've gotten to and who you were yesterday, last month, or last year. And because like it or not, this is where you are right
yeah.
now. And so accept that and then, be proud of the journey to get you here and your journey forward. So sort of like refocus it on yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's just so much of what you've been talking about is that journey and that lifelong learning. And so yeah, I think there's such a similarity and no wonder you're one of my best friends. I love the mindset and I love you sharing this today. Thank you so much, Pam Harris. Appreciate you being here